누구나.
Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to this global info session of Accelerate 2030. I see that still people are joining us. Welcome to everyone joining in the Zoom webinar. Welcome to everyone joining the Facebook live stream. It's our great pleasure to host you. My name is Lyubka Mitlinovska. I'm the Global Program Manager and co-founder of Accelerate 2030, a program led by Impact Hub Geneva. So our aim with this session today is to give an introduction to the program, introduction to the relation between the Sustainable Development Goals and entrepreneurship, and share our experiences in connecting and adding value through the Geneva ecosystem that we correlate with entrepreneurs from across the world. We are joined today by two really exciting guests who will help us unpack some of these topics and share their experiences. We have Kaylee Taylor, who leads the Geneva 2030 Ecosystem Initiative under the IISD's Tracking Progress Program. Prior to joining IISD, Kaylee co-founded and ran a youth-focused NGO that works on energy and climate issues called Student Energy. And she's leading a lot of the energy in the Geneva ecosystem. And we're really excited to have her with us today and have her share some of her experiences and some of the exciting plans ahead. And we have Alejandro Ortega, one of the Accelerate 2030 alumni entrepreneurs, CEO and co-founder of Sibö, who will share some of his experiences with the program. Before we start, I would like to ask everyone to start introducing themselves in the chat box. Please insert your name, the organization you're representing, and the country you're coming from. Also, before we start with the agenda for today, we would like to know what are your expectations from this session. So we will be launching a short poll now to just see what people are expecting. Maybe part of our housekeeping rules, as I'm hearing someone's mics on, is to please mute yourself for the moment. And I hope that our colleagues can actually automatically mute people that are not speaking. Yes, whenever possible, have your camera on and feel free to drop any questions or reflections in the chat box. So I hope the poll is ongoing and we can see what are the expectations of today's session. I think it's on now. Can people see it actually? Can someone from the team confirm? I'm not sure.
Yes, we can. We can see it.
Great. We'll just take a moment to let everyone drop their answer. In the meantime, let's see who we have on the call. We have Tech Build Africa, Mexico, Geneva, North Macedonia, Rwanda, Nigeria. Great. Awesome. Super excited to see the diverse audience. And looking at the poll, most of you would like to learn more about Accelerate 2030. A lot of you also want to learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals. And very happy to see that we have quite a few people interested in applying for the program. So hopefully we'll get to cover all of these interests and questions throughout the call. And without further ado, we will then start with one of the topics that you're most interested in, which is introducing you to Accelerate 2030, which is the host of today's session. So Accelerate 2030 is the world's largest program connecting entrepreneurs and the Sustainable Development Goals. It is led by the Impact Hub network. And what we do is we scout for the most promising entrepreneurs with solutions for the Sustainable Development Goals across the Global South mostly. And we then deliver support and connect them with strategic partners locally and globally, especially focused on introductions to the ecosystem in Geneva. All this with an aim to support them in scaling their impact. The program was co-initiated by Impact Hub and the United Nations Development Program in 2016, and it has grown to more than 24 countries, attracting over 1,600 entrepreneurs and numerous partners across the globe. This has been possible due to the collaboration and support of partners of the program, such as the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, Pfizer, the MAVA Foundation, and many others who have contributed throughout these years. A little bit more about the program. And I hope we can be, or we are sharing some slides at the moment. Adese, if you can help us with that. I'm not sure actually, as being on the background, if we do have the slides. Okay, great. So as I was saying, we have had the pleasure to be present in more than 26 countries. So far, we're now launching the next edition of the program. We can go to the next slide, Adese. And this is why we're hosting this session, to actually help interested entrepreneurs and other organizations and partners to learn more about the program. So Accelerate 2030 is designed to provide scaling support to entrepreneurs who contribute in some way to the Sustainable Development Goals. The way we do that is, if we can go to the next slide, is through a multi-phase program where we currently are in the campaign phase in more than 20 locations, and you saw some of them on the map before. And at this point, we are scouting for entrepreneurs who satisfy the criteria of being related to the Sustainable Development Goals, being in a growth stage and looking to scale their ventures. Then the national teams in every country select the top ventures who are supported in two phases. The first one is the National Scale Ready program, where entrepreneurs start with diagnostics. Then usually there is a bootcamp in each location, and which is followed with workshops on the main program pillars, including leadership and resilience, impact management, access to finance, scaling strategies, and access to networks and partnerships. So we will hear more about the value of the National Scale Ready programs, through which we expect more than 200 entrepreneurs to go through in this current edition. And then the top 10 to 20 are selected to go in the Global Scaling Program, which we host out of Geneva. And this is a global phase starts with a Global Scaling Week, which this year is taking place at the end of November. And we have Kelly to tell us a bit more about all the other exciting activities happening in Geneva at the end of November, and around which we are organizing this week. And then in the following 6 months, we will continue supporting entrepreneurs to actually execute their scaling strategies together with partners like Boston Consulting Group, International Trade Center, coaches, and others. Yes, if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So a little bit of the entrepreneurs that we're looking at. As I mentioned several times, we're looking at the impact on the Sustainable Development Goals. We're looking at the scalability of their solutions and business models. We're looking at ventures that are at a stage where they can absorb the support that we can deliver, that already have traction, that have generated impact and have further potential. And of course, we're looking at motivated and skillful teams. Next, please. These are some of the ventures that we supported in the last cohort. As you can see, it's quite a diverse cohort geographically, in terms of the sectors, in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals that they tackle. And we are very happy to have Alejandro as one of the alumni to share his experiences with us today. Before going to a conversation with the speakers, maybe just quickly sharing, yes, that's great, thank you. We can go to the next slide. A little bit of the success of this last cohort, even though they were struck in the middle of the global phase by the pandemic crisis. We were still very proud to see that the ventures actually progressed very well, achieving almost 200% increase in end users, reaching 16 new international markets, and 40% rise in employment, more than 6 million raised overall. And very happy to see that 100% of them would recommend Accelerate2030 to a peer entrepreneur. You can go to the next. And maybe just quickly before turning to the speakers, I would invite Santu from Impact Hub Geneva as well, a co-founder and strategic lead of Accelerate2030, to very quickly reflect on how the program is relevant at this point and the theme of the program in 21-22.
Great, thank you, Yuka, and hi everyone. So as you know, in the past year has been a tough year for the world and for all of us. And thus, in this year's edition, we really want to focus on the core theme, and we'll soon hear more from Kali, the core theme of the Sustainable Development Goals on leaving no one behind. That means that we're focusing on solutions. If you have an entrepreneur, you hold a solution that offers, for example, access to clean water, access to sanitation, healthcare solution, anything that helps and gives access to the poorest or the communities that need it the most and that have been left behind now with the pandemic. This is our focus. So we are looking for scalable solutions that are really touching the ones that might not have that are being left behind with the pandemic. At the same time, we want to make sure that we're looking forward as well. And we believe that the future is really green and it's inclusive. So if your business is really thinking big, thinking around how do we build a future that is green, it's inclusive, it doesn't damage the environment, but actually has a concrete positive impact on the environment while reaching the poor, this will be our focus area this year. You will learn soon more about the SDGs. It's wide covering, but with the given situation, this is where we want to really put our energy. And so do remember before applying that your solution, your business, you do not need to be perfect, but the program will actually allow you to explore what do you need to get there? How can you reach more people? How can you reach more beneficiaries? Who do you need to partner up with to actually get a bigger reach for your product and your solution? So we're here to accompany you on your journey, to help you ask some of these key questions and connect us with our key partners at the United Nations agencies and many other key partners to really give you the time to reflect and dig down. For me to scale my solution, to have a higher impact, what do I need to do? What is my journey? And that's why Accelerate2030 is here for you. So with that said, I want to leave on to continue the conversation with Kali, who is really, I would say, someone who holds at heart the Sustainable Development Goals and knows why the world, the United Nations, businesses across the world are saying this is where we want to be at 2030. This is the direction we want to go, and also the core of why we have started and founded Accelerate2030 to get startups and entrepreneurs on part of this bigger journey with the other big organizations like the United Nations. So inviting you, Yuka and Kali, for a conversation on the relevance of the SDGs today.
Great, thanks. Yuka, are you asking me questions, or I have a few slides? I don't know what's easiest for you.
If you're happy to go ahead with the slides, please do. My first opening questions, we actually combined some of the questions that we prepared for you, would be for newcomers, just briefly explaining what the SDGs are, and especially reflecting on the relationship with and importance of business for the SDGs and vice versa. So if you can quickly reflect on that, that would be great.
Okay, great. Can you see this in full screen? Or is it? Yeah, okay. Okay, so hi everyone. So nice to be here with all of you. You're probably wondering what this entity, the SDG Lab, is, because I was introduced as being part of IISD and the Geneva 2030 ecosystem. And I just wear so many hats in Geneva. And therefore, I'm one of these people who's in a lot of different circles. The SDG Lab is a unit at the UN Geneva that focuses on advancing the SDGs, and we convene the Geneva 2030 ecosystem. I'm actually in the process of leaving the SDG Lab and running a collaboration in Geneva focused on sustainable financing, which is at the heart of what you all are doing, trying to get finance to entrepreneurs who are having an impact. And Luca pointed out that there's a lot going on at the end of November. That is something I can talk about in a little bit, but that's now what I'm focused on. But I still wanted to use this presentation because the SDG Lab is very much an authority on the SDGs here in Geneva. And really all I want to do is just take you through really quickly what's behind these 17 boxes. Because I think these boxes, I mean, they're colorful, they're nice, you can wear them on a pin, they're really a good way to come together, but there's so much more than just those 17 boxes. There's a lot behind them. And the first thing to say is that behind those 17 goals are 169 targets that break down which each goal means, and over 230 indicators for measuring the progress that we have had on those goals. Not only that, all 193 member states of the United Nations adopted the agenda, which makes it universal in adoption. And this is quite rare in the UN, but something I think shows the power of this agenda. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because previous agendas that have focused on sustainability have, been targeted at developing countries or have been just targeted at certain regions. And this really is for the entire globe. It recognizes that no country has this all figured out and that we all have work to do. The agenda is also integrated, and this is something that I think can easily get missed when you look at these boxes. These boxes, while they appear to be separate, they have a ton of interaction within them. And this is something I think we really can't forget, because if you are making an intervention, let's say, as Santu just said, on clean water or on energy or on health, that will have implications on the other goals. And we have to think in systems if we're going to achieve this agenda. So, when you're thinking about the work that you do, it's important to also consider the impacts it has on other domains of society. And that goes as much for governments as it does for entrepreneurs and businesses, and academic institutions and NGOs, all of the actors who are working on this. That's another part of the universality, is that every sector of society is implicated or has a role to play. Another thing that I think is quite important is that it's about leaving no one behind. And again, this is the theme of Accelerate 2030. So this is right at the core. And I point to a very specific example of why this is so important. The agenda that came before the SDGs was called the Millennium Development Goals, and they were focused primarily on developing countries. And in that, they were mostly focused on a number of issues related to health and poverty reduction, for example. And what ended up happening is a lot of good progress was made, and everyone thought, oh, this is great. Having these goals set is perfect. But what we saw when we looked closer at the data is actually that the progress that was made could actually be attributed mainly just to China's economic growth. And in fact, many individual groups and countries overall fell further behind in that period of the Millennium Development Goals. So when it came to the SDGs, there was a recognition that it was crucial to focus on those who are the most vulnerable first, to ensure that we're bringing everyone ahead and not just, those that are the lowest hanging fruit. And so this is a really fundamental principle, along with the fact that it's meant to be transformative and to create new systems. So maybe I have like a bunch more slides, Luca, but maybe I stop there and then I can reference them as we go with your questions. But for me, those principles are the ones that are fundamental to the 2030 agenda and that really make a difference when it comes to how businesses interact with the agenda and how anyone does, really.
Thank you so much, Keely. That's a very good introduction, especially for those that are maybe not so familiar with the SDGs agenda. So Santu briefly touched upon need for even stronger action and in this context, and especially with the consequences that the crisis produced. Any quick reflection from your side on what this means? Now you mentioned that actually some contexts were falling even further behind, even in the previous agenda. What does this mean now, and what can we call entrepreneurs to do at this moment?
It's a great question. I think the COVID pandemic has shown us that indeed an integrated approach that's systemic is what we need. Because if you look at what caused the pandemic, you know, in a lot of ways, this was an issue around nature. So the fact that we're losing nature and there's more opportunity for viruses to pass between people and animals, but also that, you know, illegal wildlife trade. So this is very much an issue that is often looked at in Goal 14, for example, but this caused a global health crisis, which is SDG 3, which led to massive economic impact that I think we're still grappling with. SDG 8, you know, that led to follow-on effects, for example, with women who were confined with their abusers, for example. This caused a lot of issues around violence. So what I'm trying to tell you is not that this is an issue, that those are necessarily issues, although they could be, that individual companies work on, but that these things are connected. And that this is why it's so fundamental to approach the agenda as a more integrated framework and not as piecemeal individual buckets. So I think really what's being called of different business sectors and of entrepreneurs is to look at the challenges that their localities are facing, and if they're multinational, the localities that they are in more broadly, and to try and address or find solutions to the problems, address the problems that exist, but in a way that is more systemic and considering the broader dimensions of sustainability, which are social, economic, and environmental. And I think what that practically looks like is two things. One, it's ensuring that the impact of the business, the impact that it has on society, is positive and is contributory to the agenda. And the second is that the way in which the business operates is also aligned to the SDGs, which can include making sure that people are being paid fairly, giving decent economic opportunity, ensuring diversity and balance in the workforce and leadership, ensuring as much as possible resource efficiency, circular economy, lowering the impact of a business. I mean, there's a whole host. So it's about what the business does and how it does it. And I think that's really what we need to focus on in the SDGs.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think that sheds a lot of light on how entrepreneurs can contribute. And to that what and how, we also add the why at Accelerate 2030, and maybe Alejandro will be able to touch upon that later on. I'm aware that you will have to run in a bit, Kaylee. So I would love to maybe briefly reflect on what do you feel is the added value that the Geneva ecosystem brings to the story, and maybe tell us a little bit more about what's happening at the end of November, and what can entrepreneurs from across the world, especially through Accelerate 2030, bring in that week, and what can they expect to get if they end up in the global cohort. And in the meantime, I would encourage people, if they have any questions for Kaylee, please drop them in. If there's time, we will cover them. If not, we will find another way to respond to them.
Perfect. So the first thing I would say is that Geneva, I mean, I'm not from here originally. I've been here for a few years. And when I first moved here, I really was struck at the high concentration of actors committed to sustainable development, humanitarian response, and human rights in such a small space. So for those of you who haven't been here, you have roughly like 700 different entities, whether they be NGOs, academic institutions, or UN entities, in basically a 10-block radius. So a very high concentration of actors that you can leverage their expertise and knowledge and their connections. But I think I really like the way you formulated that question, Lubka, because I think Geneva also benefits from the entrepreneurs coming, because as much as we have so much fantastic expertise here, very much at the multilateral level, also some entities working in countries, it's so crucial that we have those voices coming to Geneva and informing what's happening at the global policymaking space about the realities of what's happening in communities, in countries, on the ground. So I think it's a very symbiotic relationship. I think some of these entities can absolutely help you in thinking through the issues you're trying to tackle and in connecting you to networks. But you, by virtue of being here, also create a lot of knowledge and experience that others can draw from. And this can inform the way that Geneva-based actors respond to these challenges. Now, specifically on finance and what's happening at the end of November, a few years ago, a number of us, including the Impact Hub Geneva, started to realize that one of the other communities, besides the huge concentration of sustainable development related actors that exist in Geneva, one of the other big concentrations was the finance sector. Many people know this. Switzerland has a very robust financial center. And we realized that this connection is crucial, is fundamental to advancing the SDGs. If we are not financing the business models, the companies of the future, they will not be able to address these challenges. And there are a lot of barriers to making that happen that need to be removed. And we created what's called building bridges. So building bridges between international organizations, NGOs, academic institutions, the public sector, so governments, and the financial industry, to transform the financial industry so that it serves the needs of the SDGs and the global economy what we want to create. But what that means practically is that it gets financing and capital in the hands of the businesses of the future. And so what will be happening from November 29th to December 2nd in Geneva is a large global week, although we expect most of the participants will be Swiss-based just because of the health situation, with the exception of entrepreneurs like the Impact Hub will be bringing. We will be mobilizing this community and also having an online component to try and very quickly advance and mobilize the community to develop more sustainable financing products, instruments, policy frameworks that are needed. I mean, there's so many different aspects of what needs to happen. So we're really looking forward to the entrepreneurs being here and hopefully in connecting them to a number of financiers who can help them to reach their goals.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. And thank you for all the great work you're doing in building these bridges. It's not only you, it's a lot of people, it's a community, but you're bringing the driving force behind some of these processes. And as we mentioned at the beginning, around this Building Bridges Week that Kaylee mentioned, we're designing the Global Skilling Week of this year's edition. So we will be hoping that we achieve some of these aims that Kaylee mapped out, that we actually make these connections and we inspire and drive finance and collaborations and other partnerships towards scaling some of these promising solutions. Kaylee, thank you so much for joining. I'm not sure if you will have to leave us right away. If there are some questions, we will make sure to channel them to you and answer them in one way or another. And with that, I would like to turn to our next speaker, Alejandro Ortega from what initially was Costa Rica Insect Company and now Sibö, one of the Accelerate 2030 alumni. Alejandro, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Would you mind starting with a very short introduction of what Sibö does and how did you come to apply to Accelerate 2030 in the first place?
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's lovely to be here and sharing a little bit about the whole impact. Just to start with a little bit about our company, the name is Sibö, and what we do is that we are trying to lead the food industry to a sustainable future, and we do it by creating innovative biomaterials using insects. And basically, that's where we got started, growing insects and looking for a crazy or uncommon solution to one of the world's biggest problems. We got started at that point 2.5 years ago with Costa Rica Insect Company. And at that point, we were looking for partners that understood why we were trying to do this, why were we going with insects, such an uncommon solution, even in Costa Rica. And we found Accelerate2030, an impact hub, and we found more than a program, an ally. At that point, we didn't understand it well, but towards we were going through the different staircases, we learned more and more about the program ourselves, the business model, and we got connected with a lot more people who understood what we were trying to do, or as I call them, the crazy ones. And that helped us a lot.
Great, thank you. One follow-up question on that, and question that we get a lot is, were you aware at the moment when you were applying that you're contributing to the 2030 agenda, to the Sustainable Development Goals, and to what extent?
We will, we were very well aware about the SDGs, but we didn't know how to attain them specifically. It was kind of having a goal, but not knowing the path and not knowing the implications of it. That was something that we realized in the process. Me and my co-founder, Daniela, had to learn a lot. And at the end of the day, we oversimplified maybe with just one word, empathy. But it's as easy as that. It's understanding, and it's as difficult as empathy, but it's as easy as empathy at the same time. It's about listening, about paying attention, about understanding other perspectives, and understanding, as Callie mentioned, how one action could be exponential in other essences. And I think that's the main point of Accelerate2030. And on that point as well is about thinking in a circular mentality, or a circular mode of what is scaling. At that point, we thought that it was a matter of hitting different goals in a linear way. And afterwards, we understood how one action could be scaling in a circular and exponential kind of, instead of growing, expanding. And that changed the way that we do business, the way that we had our business model, and the way that we took decisions within the company as well.
Awesome. Thank you for raising those points, Alejandro, because one thing that happens in some countries is that entrepreneurs are doing some great work because they just found an issue they're very passionate about, but they are not necessarily aware that they're contributing to a much larger agenda, because maybe the Sustainable Development Goals are not so well promoted or so well known in that context. So I would like to insert a bit of a call to action here to entrepreneurs following us, not to feel intimidated if they haven't heard or they don't know so much about the Sustainable Development Goals, but that to just kind of be curious and learn and find the connections and find the potential on how they can contribute even more. And another point that you raised around scaling is that it's definitely also a mindset. I did mention that we're looking for entrepreneurs at a growth stage, but I would not discourage entrepreneurs at any stage to think about their business model and their scaling strategy, because it's definitely something that is a mindset of this: how can I exponentially generate impact, rather than this linear process of let's hit different KPIs and milestones to get there. Great. So reflecting further on the experience with Accelerate2030, would you mind sharing a little bit what was the key benefits or benefits and experience that you got in the national phase as well as the global phase further on?
Well, when we got started, we were a little bit scared because we were just starting as a company. We had a lot of advancements in different areas, business model, and we had a very clear why reason of what we were doing and the partners that we needed. But we were the underdogs on the national program. And just because of that, we were a little bit scared. We were not hesitant when we applied, but we were probably not thinking that we would be selected. And during that national phase, we were able to understand that although we were just starting, we had a clear path towards the vision that we had. And that changed everything. It wasn't a matter of how big you were or how much revenue you have. It's a matter of how much impact you can make. And that's something that changed within the national program that helped us connect with other people with a lot of experience and learn from it, which at the end of the day, that's the great part of Accelerate 2030. It's not only the content of the program, it's the people that you know, other entrepreneurs with the same mindset, and that creates exponential energy. So that helped us a lot to prepare for an incredible global program, a global space. It was a matter of kind of building the basis of what we needed. So once we got the right support and right tools, we would know what to do with them.
That sounds great. So then can you lead us a little bit through the experience with the global program, especially the Global Scaling Week that you passed in Geneva and what happened afterwards? And where is Sibö now? You told us a little bit about the beginning and the why. You can tell us a little bit of where you are now.
Okay, so during the global program, it was just a week that felt like a month. During the first couple of days, it was really funny because we were trying to know each other, but we didn't expect to be hit in the face just with the sustainable you part of the program, which I think is great. I come from a tech perspective, a business perspective, where everything has to be fact driven, everything has to be proven, and leadership is mostly about being strong for the rest of the people and not showing your real feelings. And that's something that changed my mind completely and allowed me to unlock a lot of skills that I had as a leader. A lot of people are going to realize more and more about the sustainable you part, but it's a matter of knowing you, knowing your why. And that was the first part of the program. And the rest of the week was a matter of different challenges that we all as entrepreneurs were having to present to investors, to share our ideas, to receive a lot of feedback. But since it was just a week, every day was like, it took like, I don't know, 90 hours every day. So it was crazy. And that kind of struggles or challenges helped us connect with a lot of other entrepreneurs in ways that only we entrepreneurs in that situation get to know each other. And because of that is that we learn so much from other entrepreneurs from Brazil, from Indonesia, from Turkey, from different parts of the world. And at the end of the day, we got a little bit from each other's business model or each other's ideas. And that helped us to realize that our company was more than just an insect company, and that we had the chance to make a bigger impact if we moved different parts of the business, if we communicated better, if we understood a little bit better on what were the key areas of effort that we had to do. And we decided to set up our company as headquarters in the Netherlands, and at the same time keep the basis of production in Costa Rica, expanding our impact, allowing us to focus both in the social part and the technology part, getting a lot of other people on board, decentralizing some parts of the process like farming, and looking more into the past of our own cultures to understand how with the tools and technology we have now, we can create a sustainable future. And that is why we are here now in Europe, opening different borders, collaborating with different customers across the world, and trying to look for even more solutions in the aspects of biotech applied to the food industry.
Awesome. We're so proud of you, Alejandro, the team, and what you've been able to achieve throughout this past few years, especially at a very challenging time. So congratulations to you and the team. What would you, I'm aware that we're coming to an end, time flew in this session. What would you send as a message or an encouragement to entrepreneurs that are following this session and that are thinking or hesitating to apply for the program? What would be your message to entrepreneurs, especially at this time in this context?
Well, I would say that everybody that's following this is here because we entrepreneurs we want to set up a good business, and in order to do a good business, we need to understand what that means, what that covers, the amount of empathy we should have, and yeah, how to set up a good business. Something I learned is that a good business is good for all, and that has different perspectives. So in order to have those perspectives, you need to listen, you need to learn from each other, and you need, well, to be really well connected with the crazy ones. So I would encourage everybody to join on board, follow, and even those that are not selected for this program, keep applying, keep looking for opportunities, and keep moving forward with all of this. At the end of the day, it's a matter of being connected with each other, because it's a big challenge. It's not an easy task. And the main reason why we're doing it is not because the program is just really nice. It's just because we all believe on the same thing: a better world, a better future.
Thank you, Alejandra. That's a really great note and message to bring the session to a closure. Before we do that, I would still like to share a bit more about the program and some of the topics that Alejandro mentioned that might not be so familiar to the rest of the audience. So Daisy, if you would share the slides again. We actually added one on the sustainable UP, so everyone can understand what we're talking about when we talk about the program. So first of all, a little bit about the global feast and this global scaling week that we mentioned several times. So this is a week that happens this year at the end of November in Geneva, and that marks the kickoff of the global phase that then runs for the next 6 months. And this is a week where we really focus. We still do some capacity building and trainings and sessions for entrepreneurs, but a lot of it revolves around making connections and introductions to the key development organizations, UN organizations that have their offices in Geneva, connecting to the finance community that Kaylee mentioned, connecting to corporate partners and so on. So it's really kind of the big bang of the program, even though there is a really important national phase before that, and there is an important 6 months follow-up process afterwards. In terms of the sustainable UPs that Alejandro mentioned, that meant so much to him and to a lot of the other entrepreneurs, this is our philosophy of the program and how we see sustainable scaling. So for us, it all starts with the human or the team or you at the center. So of course, we're looking at business success and KPIs, the impact metrics and so on. But we start with the team in the middle, and why is this important to you? What is really the change that you want to see in the world? Why are you doing what you're doing? And how can you design a scaling journey at the next level, which is sustainable for you and your team as holistic human beings, not just business people? Then we look at sustainable scaling strategies and connecting the business and impact model together in a way that is sustainable. And then through this, we believe that as a program, as a network, we contribute to a more sustainable economy that is so much needed, especially as we can see now. So I just wanted to briefly add that to the conversation. And maybe the last piece of information and why everyone or most of you is here is on how you can apply for the program. So as you saw, the program is now has its applications open in 21 locations. Please visit our website to learn more about the locations and be able to apply. You will find there the criteria. You will find the apply button, which will bring you to the F6S platform, through which you can find the list of the different country applications. And then you're invited to complete your applications and submit. We work in a very decentralized way. This session is hosted out of Impact Hub Geneva, who is coordinating the whole program. But in each country, there is a team on the ground that can actually lead you through the process, that can give you more information, and that will actually lead the national scale ready program, of course, in coordination with all the other countries and us as a global team. So with that, there were some questions regarding what kind of company can apply, and startup, SME, yes, please go ahead, do apply for the program. If there are any other questions, please get in touch with your national team or with our global team. We do hope that we see a lot of you with your applications. We do hope that you also engage in other ways if you're not an entrepreneur, but another organization, bigger corporate, international organization, development organization, whatever type of organization that wants to somehow join, please get in touch as well. And with that, we wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much for joining. And you can also visit our impact report on our website and learn more about the program. And we hope to see you soon in another event of ours. Until then, all the best and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for the meeting, Luca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.